Hi guys, and welcome to another Hero of the Week. This week's hero is friend of the Sunday Roast, Marina Purkiss. Now, Marina appeared on the Alexis Conran show where the latest attempt by the Tories to stay in power was discussed. The UK's exit from the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, this has been doing the rounds since 2012, I believe, when the immigration debate was really beginning to get weaponised. Marina explained to the host how leaving the convention would be a case of the British people throwing away protections to their fundamental rights just to punish a few asylum seekers. Have a listen to her wonderful analogy and monologue.
Marina, Dawn said earlier that it's like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. What's your view?
Honestly, I had a different analogy. Mine was burning down your house because you don't like a patch of carpet.
Right.
Because I understand that people are saying, right, they want to get out of the European Convention on Human Rights because it's that is grounding, for example, the flights to Rwanda. Mm-hmm. I understand that's what they're doing here. But what I would really ask you to look at is the European Convention of Human Rights is, my God, it is so much more than that. It is your last resort as a defence if something happens with the state. Mm-hmm. So to give you an example, you know, the Hillsborough disaster, justice for Hillsborough. The reason they were able to get that justice is because of the European Convention on Human Rights. Because if the state does something to you, then it's your way of challenging the state. So as we know, the police were blaming the victims for what happened to them at Hillsborough. And thanks to that European Convention on Human Rights, actually, they got justice and they basically overturned the decision. The same with European Convention on Human Rights. It stopped criminalisation of homosexual acts. It also stopped the banning of LGBT plus people in the armed forces. And another thing to bear in mind as well, completely separate, is, you know, this was Winston Churchill's legacy, the ECHR. And if we remove ourselves from it, we also breach the Good Friday Agreement. Yeah. So we risk destabilising peace in Northern Ireland. All for what? Because we want to send an overpriced, inhumane plane of people against their will to Rwanda.
Wonderful, wonderful speech. And completely correct on all of these counts. The latter one, of course, being the Good Friday Agreement, yes. And this is why I don't think the UK government will exit from the European Convention on Human Rights. They won't dump it, because the consequences for the UK government would be catastrophic. There would be sanctions probably imposed from the United States. So, you know, this is an argument being used by the right wing. The Tories will pull it out from time to time. The European Convention on Human Rights is the problem. We need to dump that. We need to throw people's rights under a bus in order to stop a few asylum seekers. Or, as Marina has pointed out here, send a few of them on a very expensive flight to Rwanda, even though they don't want to go. It's a tool. It's a rhetorical tool in some sense. Yes, we're going to get rid of this. Because it relies on people not understanding the value of the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, for many Brexiteers, they seem to think it's something to do with the European Union. They don't like it because it contains the word Europe. And they also don't understand that at the European Court of Human Rights, there is a British judge there. This was written by the British. This is something that has been presented as a wonderful piece of legislation, a wonderful tool to protect human rights. And it would be a terrible disgrace, a terrible shame for the UK to abandon it. Now, as I said, I don't think it's going to happen. It'd be highly unlikely. The consequences for the British government would be terrible. But right-wingers and their supporters seem to pull it out from time to time as an excuse for government failure. Like Brexit, blame the EU when things don't go well. And like Brexit, it's a case of, well, we need to throw ourselves under the bus in order to punish a few foreigners. End freedom of movement for everyone in order to punish a few Europeans, not realizing that freedom of movement was also for British people. Marina's Hero of the Week. See you next time for our next Hero of the Week.